one friend. I may have a lot of acquaintances. And that's the trouble, because you're smart. You have enough wisdom to know some people you can't say something to, some people you can say something to, and then you hope they didn't get brainwashed or mind controlled in between the time you saw them. It becomes a very dangerous situation, and that's the whole problem. You always have to go for self, and as you go for self and find yourself at a certain rate of vibration and see others that are vibrating like you, that's probably better than trying to reach back and so-called help a friend, because in most cases, friends are already helping each other, so there's no need to look back. In most cases, it's very difficult to find a friend. And because of that, we become somewhat isolated. But none of this is by accident. This is the whole key here. This is well planned, well thought out. And to break out of the laboratory box like the rat out of the maze, to break out of the quarantine, to break out of the mind control, takes a big doing. And every time one has been able to do that, the reins are tightened and the question is asked, how did that person get out of the box? And they ask you sometimes, how does he do that? How does he learn to do that? They don't care how you did it. They don't care how you learned it. What they want to know is what mistake was made to allow you to come out of the box. So that therefore, tell them, so make sure no one else will come out of that box the same way. And this is why these reports and why everything is written down, we've gotten to writing instead of thinking. We've gotten to keeping notes instead of using memory. We're just a very interesting people. And all Earth people are going through the same thing, this dispensation, as far as I see it. Let me say, first of all, as always, thank you for showing up. Well, I thank Melody for being as brilliant and as wonderful as she is. And I'm sorry sometimes that I miss part of that, but when she gets here, then it's time for me to answer a few more phone calls that came in the day, get a few more notes together. And in this case, she came with some information that I asked her for. And not only did she get that information, but she got a preponderance of others. So I had to try and incorporate that very quickly. So this is why I'm going to just use her all the way through today, because even though we lost some pictures, we were going to show some slides or some things there. That didn't work out. I guess the creator didn't want that at this time. But we will be able to paint hopefully a mental picture with you as to what is going on. Let me also say too, since today is a nice and warm one, we haven't had too many on the Saturdays when we've met. If you wish when you're eating to go out on the deck or to go down into our yard, please feel free to do so. Some of you also, I mention this in general because I don't like to talk to individuals when there's a group. Some of you say, well, we never saw your house, we never took to show your house, we don't know it's your yard, is that your property, is this and that. Well, we're answering some of these questions today, it is our property. And since it's a beautiful day, and not really or cold in this, if you wish to go out in the yard to eat or take some time after the meeting, as many of you do, to go out, please feel free to do so. We'll give you a little tour around and all that kind of thing. Now, back to the matter at hand. And is Mark still there now?
Yeah, I'm here now. You ready?
Okay, hold on, let me make sure if I want to start at this time or not. Yeah, we might as well again. Yeah, we can start now.
All right.
I want to say thank you all of you for, again, attending the Meta Center lecture today, the third and final portion, we hope, where history goes as hard to tell, of what we call TEAS, Terrestrial, Extraterrestrial, and Aliens. This particular one we call Confrontation, Resignation, and Resonation. And it's really a way of summating something that is unsummatable, because the story still goes on. It goes on each day that we're alive, each day that we participate in living and breathing and not taking care of our planet Earth, Terra, which is what it's called completely. And at the same time, we're reaching a time in the history of our Earth where we're going to have to do that. And those that are able to take that mind control leap will have to do so. When we bring together the culmination of these last three episodes, and that's the only way I can put it, it's almost like a little serial. How many of you came to TEAS 1? How many were at TEAS 2? Okay, did you find them of interest? Yeah. That's why you're back for 3 of them. Now, those that didn't will probably ask some questions. Well, in your outline you said such and such a thing, or you didn't mention that because we probably already have. The outline, or what we call a little preamble that we send out on the flyers, is an overview of what we have covered and what we'll cover today. On the Q&A, and we always give this where you can make your questions or ask comments, ask questions or make comments, whatever. If you wish to kind of review some things, I'm not going to go over all the TV lists. They're already on tape. All you have to do is buy the tape. Any of you who sat through them, of course, you can buy that tape for half price if you've already attended. Other than that, it's already laid out. So what we're going to do is to bring to culmination and summation what we've covered over the last 2 sessions, what we see as now heading, and what hopefully we can avert by having this knowledge. And each one of you will have to make up your own minds as to just how far you're going to go to bring out the consciousness that you have in the face of some of these subconscious antics that are going on to keep you in darkness. With that in mind, I want to go over a history of our section of the universe as I understand it, dwelling mainly on about 8 little constellations. That's not even a pebble in the water. That's not even a grain of sand in the Creator's omniverse, in the Creator's cosmos. Well, we're going to single out an area called Lyra, and it's been referred to as a constellation visible in the northern hemispheres of our planet, usually from the time of the month we call April through to the next January. Lyra and the Lyrians have a great deal of effect on what has happened in our cosmos, and especially what has happened to the souls that are incarnate now on the planet Earth. And again, remember, in Lyran technology and in the history of the cosmos, our planet is not called Earth, but called Terra, T-R-R-A, where we get the word sometimes terra firma. And I often say terra is not too firm any longer, with all the earthquakes and tidal waves and things that are going on now. Just an overview, and I'll kind of go through this. It'll take about maybe 10, 15 minutes, but I think it's worth doing again. The people or the creatures, or whatever you want to call those that live in the constellation of Lyra, are about millions of years ahead of our Earth development at the present time. They were the ancestors of a branch of our life stream of evolution and have had a great deal to say with it, and it's still interfering or helping, depending on how you look at it and what happens here. They are very highly technological people, and understand when I say the constellation of Lyra, there are many suns within Lyra and many planets within Lyra. We're going to specifically get on to a narrow group of them, however. They had a war there on this particular constellation and on these particular planets again, within their own selves as they grew in technology, and some felt they should take their technology to a higher degree. Some said they shouldn't, they should become more spiritual. And the two factions got to a point where there was actually a war there. There have been many wars throughout the Creator's cosmos. If you ask me, why does the Creator allow it? I can't answer that. I can give you suppositions. But yet wars are fought amongst all kind of looking creatures throughout. And pretty much when we see the movies like Star Wars and this kind of thing, and we see all of these different aliens and extraterrestrials battling each other, it's because they actually do. And because so much of this knowledge has come down, that the only way they can generally bring it to you now is through what they call movies, books, trilogies, things along the line, to let you expand your consciousness to understand that we are one of maybe millions or some billions of different kinds of creatures. We are nothing in one sense, but we're everything in another sense when you understand that this whole consciousness seems to be in the mind of the Creator. So whatever the Creator is thinking, therefore we are important because we've been thought of. This war that started there in Lyra led many of the people there to flee and to use some of their technology to get to other planets, to other systems, and to get away from this warring faction, because this war seemingly went on for almost 500,000 years. Because they were so evenly divided, and even used technology that's beyond almost imagined, even imagine into existent things, and then make technology make those things that were imagined into existence real for those that are tuned, creating what they call hybrids right and left and so on again, much as is happening again in our own system and right here on our own planet Earth. Some of them fled to what is called the Hyades, and others fled to what was called the Pleiades. These are both star systems with literally over 100 different planets around maybe about 5 or 6 different suns. They also went to a nearby sun in their own system of Lyra called Vega. So they've had influence on the Hyades, the Pleiades, and Vega, which lets you know that when you begin to read the books and begin to understand the Pleiadians are coming, and some say the Vegans are here. You don't hear too much about the Haitians and so, but all of these were people, or peopled by the souls and the incarnates, if you would, from Lyra. In a few thousand years, they raised their consciousness to such a high degree that some of them that went to the Pleiades and some of them that went into Lyra and other parts of Hydra began to travel even from there to other star-sun systems again. I want to start with what they did when they came to Terra, which we now call our Earth. It's been known by the names of Saros and Sero, but we'll leave two words today to refer to Terra and to Earth, which will be the planet that we now exist on. They remained apart in some of their consciousness from other Lyrans, so the ones that came here supposedly agreed that they were not going to have another war, that they learned from their lessons, and that whenever they found a subspecies or a developing species, they would help it to come into its own. They would give it the blessings of their technology and information where possible. When they found that these creatures could not hold it, or if they used it for warlike purposes, they would either destroy them, back off from them, or again see to it that other higher consciousness could stream into it by setting up what they call portals of information, using what we call star-sun systems to put mental consciousness and to raise again in what would be called a creator's development. Again, many of them came into conflict even here, even though they said that, and wound up in different kinds of camps, even though they said that they were not going to do so. They also had an influence on many of the Pleiadians who began to stream in here roughly around, I guess we'd say about 500,000 years ago, even though they were ancestors of them. And they also had a lot to do with some of the ones that came from Vega, even though they were their ancestors. We begin to see that time is different in different star systems. And although these people had traveled within their own consciousness to other planets, what they'd actually done in many cases when they came from one constellation to another was to travel in mind. That's the best way I can say it without getting so way out that it becomes almost completely confusing. But a lot of things that people think are happening physically are not happening physically at all, unless the sun, that again the planets orbit around, is able to send out a frequency that all the planets can tune to. This is why you will find what they call interdimensional, as well as interstellar visitation. Many of these creatures, even though all they're doing in their own mind is traveling from point A to point B, from their system into our system, when they cross that divide between suns, between constellations, they actually are becoming invisible to those behind them and becoming visible to those in front of them. It's as though they are traveling and we are existing in a mind, literally in a mind. That what we call travel may not be travel at all. And in fact, as I pointed out last week, and I have to do this to make you follow, because I'll put you all to sleep otherwise, I can realize that, but we're going to get into the heavy stuff again. You have to begin to realize that every time you go to sleep, you are traveling. Every time you travel, you are learning something. You're living many multidimensional existences. So even though I'm going to take this on a progress report of what Lyrans did through the Pleiades, and through Hyades, and through Vega, I'm still telling you what is simply happening in the mind of these individuals. And once you go into your own mind, you travel too. That is real, what they call space travel. The technology that is used is when you focus on one only of these consciousnesses and make it real. This is what they say then, down to earth. Hard, fast earth. There's no such thing as hard and fast. As we understand in electron microscopy, everything is made up of atoms, everything is in a constant state of vibration. But once you say this is real, and you lower yourself to the vibrations of that you say that is real, then everything that's happening around you is real. It's not real to others on other planets. It's not real to others in other systems. But for you here, it is real. So we're going to talk about a reality that may not be a reality, but nevertheless, this is what happened. A long time ago, later, a new wave of Pleiadians arrived to check on the descendants of their ancestors who survived the terrible war. They found survivors, and again they mixed with them and assisted Earth humanity in getting control of its assets and producing a new technology. This society became later known as the Atlanteans, who raised their sciences to levels that produced air and undersea travel, And before that, the civilization was destroyed on the surface of Earth as it had been on other surfaces of other planets before. The modern Pleiadians are descendants of the peaceful faction that settled in the star group, which astronomy gives that name, the Pleiades. The Vegans visiting us now are descendants of another peaceful group that settled on a planet in the Vegan system. The descendants of the Lyrans have since evolved beyond the conflict stage and are now interested in our welfare and feel a special responsibility toward us since we reflect the earlier warlike tendencies of themselves. They lost much of their history of conflict and destroying themselves several times, and each time that they lost this great technology advance, they had to begin all over again. According to the story, they even were able to settle on other hospitable planets in our solar system, and one of which was called Maldek, which had a moon orbiting it, which was called Maluna. Maldek and Maluna is now an asteroid belt, because even though they came in peace, they wound up setting so much in the minds of those people that they also blew up their own planet and their own moon. That is what we now call the asteroid belt. I'll state right here that at the end of a dispensation, and that seems to be what we're in, all planets that once were are given a chance of reorganizing and coming again into consciousness. Thus, the asteroid belt, with literally billions of little fragments of asteroids, are now uniting to come together to form the planet that once was. Now, that sounds way out, but you're going to hear so much talk about asteroids. Don't look for asteroids coming from intergalactic space. They're coming as the fifth planet here is trying to reunite itself. In that orbit that is the asteroid belt, the asteroids are coming together. They don't want to talk about that because that's what the asteroids are all about. They're right here in our own systems, and those that cannot come together because of the radiation that still is part of theirs will be pulled into the sun. So you hear about asteroids racing toward the sun. Is the sun going to blow up? No, the sun's not going to blow up. But the sun will grow in energy, and the planet that will be formed will be smaller than any other in our solar system. But that will happen in your lifetimes. It's happening daily, and that's one of the things that they're hiding. But we'll begin to see why that is probably the reason why it's going to happen now again. We see that although the Lyrans, again, much older in the evolution, did make mistakes, they are still now only a little ahead of the people that they created, the ancestors that we now rank amongst us because of the karma that they had to pay. What happens is when you begin to interfere with the subgroup, when you begin to use technology and teachings to influence a planet and its evolving species, you are responsible for that evolving species. It looks good for the while you're doing it, but it's not so good later on when you have to take care and make accountants with the choices that you taught. The Lyran races began evacuating their home planet over 22 million years ago. They have peaked and migrated to many places in space, but again, Earth is the one that we're going to talk about and continue to use as a starting point today. Presently today, you have over 13 different kinds of races of what you would call extraterrestrials and or aliens. Out there in space, there are literally trillions of aliens and extraterrestrials. I can't account for those who may come by in a spaceship from time to time, nor what influence they may have had. It's hard enough trying to deal with the 13 that seem to be very interested in what we're doing here now. These particular creatures, or people if you would, have set up bases inside of our Earth. Inside of our Earth has been where each time a civilization has reached a certain promulgation or height, the leaders of that civilization that were good, instead of being destroyed, as we all think they died in Atlantis and they died at Pompeii, they did not. In many cases, they were contacted while here on this planet, taken to great mountains, or into low valleys, and taken inside the Earth. There's always a remnant that is called upon. Teachers and observers, or what they call viziers, those advise and view, contact those people directly, first in dreams. You'll be able to hold it in the dream. They'll see you in the physical plane during the daytime and talk to you on a street corner. Or you'll get a phone call that's very interesting. That phone call will trigger an implant in your brain or in your mind, and you begin to remember things. That invitation to go inside the Earth is what many races on Earth now are coveting. An invitation to either go into an earthly retreat away from the chem sprays and biosprays and plagues that will be upon us in the next few years, and to ride it out. There are those who, without invitation, want to jump file them, jump the idea of incarnating enough to show that you're good and spiritual and can stay away from fighting, and just go there because it's there. That battle is also ensuing now inside of our own planet for the right to some of the inner Earth cities to escape the very plagues that some of them want to escape into or out from. It's almost like the demon trying to escape from the demonic imps that it created. But yet this is what's going on. When you talk of reconciliation here on the planet Earth, about the euro dollar, about the monetary system, about the plagues and the things that are happening, all well planned, all well thought of, all to make you leave your bodies or leave your minds. Because if you stay in your bodies and can make them healthy, or stay in your minds, the opportunity you have for triple promotion is just wonderful. They realize they're already out of the game, but they still have a time and a power that you have granted them because of worshiping them, because of subjugating to them, supporting them mentally, physically, and spiritually. Mind is a terrible thing to waste, if you will. At the present time, there is the need to control everything that you eat, everything that you think, everything that you live under and with, and to make it lower in vibration than what would make it good for you to have. Our foods, and we've talked about this, so I'm only going to skim this, though we have lots of tapes talking about all the foods, genetically inspired foods and all like this. All those foods are doing is to lower your genetic vibration. It works on your DNA, it works on your RNA, and it works on your helixes. The DNA and RNA are embedded on the helixes, which make up what you are, your whole history, and how your whole program, your whole genes, your entire system within works and functions. Most of the food, and we've told you this before, pick up some canned goods and read them. And when you don't understand them, don't just put it down. Look them up, and you'll find out that everything in there, including the aluminum that particulates when you open up that can, is built to make you